Ms. Fried, has Russia put forward any arguments that we are in violation of any of the arms control agreements that we've entered into with Russia or with its predecessor government?
Thank you for that question, sir. Yes, as a matter of fact, Russia, when we issue our annual compliance report, we do every year, at least this administration, the Russians regularly come back with some.
So they have an annual compliance report, which may even be issued on time. Sorry about that. Sorry. Go ahead. What do you think is their strongest complaint?
Strongest complaint, the one I would say, I can't give you all of their complaints right now because I haven't looked at them recently, but certainly our missile defenses is what they focus on.
Which treaty do they believe the missile defense efforts are in violation of?
Well, it would be more than likely the INF treaties.
Okay. Now, as I'm trying to understand what is the legal obligation of Russia with regard to intermediate missiles that they claim will be used only in naval warfare. As I understand it, they're allowed to test these missiles from a ground-based launcher, but not if that ground-based launcher would be the effective launcher to use in case hostilities broke out. What are they allowed to do on land in order to test weapons that they say are exclusively for naval use?
Sir, quite frankly, thank you for your question. I'm not prepared right now to go into technical details. The focus here is...
I'm asking what the treaty provides. I'm asking for you to just inform us what the treaty provides. What is the United States allowed to do? What is... I'm not asking for a secret here.
No, not at all a secret. It's a technical... But let me just briefly state that, as I mentioned before, that we have very serious concerns, and as you have stated, that Russia is developing a ground-launched cruise missile that is inconsistent with the INF Treaty. And we have made those concerns very clear to the Russians.
I'm hoping you would make them clear to us. Is the mere testing of, Mr. Hartley, I don't know if you have a comment on this, the mere testing of this missile a violation if they can claim that it's that they only plan to deploy it on ships?
Sir, that would go into the specific range and such that it is tested. So it's
well, it's being tested for intermediate. You know, it's an intermediate range missile. The question is it a naval intermediate range missile, or are they creating a ground-based intermediate missile?
Sir, I can't get into details here, I'm afraid, on that topic because of the, I'd be happy to talk about
the details I want are what are the provisions of the treaty, but my time has more than expired. I thank you for your time.
Thank the gentleman. Mrs. Fried, it's taken 5 years for the State Department to reach a verdict on this treaty, in my opinion. So my question is, are the Russians, in our point of view, in violation of the treaty? And I see only one of 3 answers. Yes, no, you don't know. So which one of those is the answer?
Sir, we're in the process of finalizing the annual compliance report, and we will have a finding shortly.
So you can't tell me whether it's yes or no, or you don't know?
I can't at this point because, as I mentioned, it is...
Well, when are you going to have this report ready? It's like the ranking member said, it's overdue.
Sir,
it's 5 years taken to get a report here. Either they're in compliance or they're not in compliance. We got to make foreign policy decisions, and we don't know if the Russians are cheating or not. So how long is it going to? When are we going to get a verdict on the report?
Sir, we report on this issue every year on the INF Treaty, and at this point, the annual compliance report is in the process of being finalized.
So when will it be finalized?
Later this spring.
No, you don't know. Okay. Each of you have said that the actions by Putin are illegal. You've seen that there's some disagreement here as to whether Russia can do what they're doing internationally or not. why is the action of Russia going into Crimea and then now eastern Ukraine illegal in the United States point of view? You both said it was illegal, so why is it illegal?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. By undertaking the actions they did, the Russians have violated their commitments under the UN Charter. That's from a legal standpoint. From a political standpoint, they've violated, they have broken commitments made under the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, and as well as the commitments under the Helsinki Final Act, among others.
Ms. Freed, do you have any other comments other than what Mr. Hartley has already said on why the action is illegal?
No, sir. I think Mr. Hartley has answered the question.
When I was in Ukraine and in recent weeks have talked to other heads of state in the area, they're not the only country that is concerned about their territorial integrity. Moldova, other former Soviet republics, not in NATO, and some that are in NATO. Are their concerns warranted? Mr. Hartley?
Yes, sir, if I may. Of course, they have...
I'm talking about concerns of Russia coming in and taking over some of their territory. That's my question.
Yes, sir. The actions that the Russians have undertaken with regard to Crimea and what they're doing in eastern Ukraine gives deep cause for concern on the part of those nations. Any country that has a Russian minority or Russian-speaking minority, at least according to Mr. Putin in his April 18th speech, according to Mr. Putin's public statements, would seem at risk of be at risk of Russian intervention.
The Ukrainian government, on the issue of interest of Russians in the East, there's no definition as to what a Russian is. Is it a Russian that was born in Russia? Is it a Russian that has moved to eastern Ukraine? Is it a Russian who wants to be Russian? There's no definition as to what a Russian is. Do we have a definition of what a Russian is in the eastern part of the Ukraine?
I don't know that we do, sir.
Means different things to different people.
That's true. And the way Mr. Putin seems to define it is an ethnic Russian or a Russian speaker.
The elections in Ukraine are coming up May 26th, I believe. I think it's important for stability in Ukraine that they have these elections, that they are fair, that people vote. Do you see, I'm asking you just to kind of look 26 days in the future, do you see that the Russians may cause a disturbance, a crisis, to try to postpone these elections? It seems like to me, and they cause a crisis, then they want to solve the crisis by moving in their country or their troops. So, are we expecting a possible crisis to try to get these elections postponed?
Sir, thank you for that. Well, I would be hesitant to speculate too far into the future. The conditions are such that that is a legitimate concern. In the negotiation of the Geneva Statement, the U.S., the EU, and the Ukrainians all urged the inclusion of a sentence that referred to the May 25th elections and the need that they be carried out in an orderly and transparent way. The Russians refused to include that in the text of the statement. The disruptions are already taking place in eastern Ukraine that are bound to complicate the election efforts, and we believe that that the instability there is being fomented by the Russians.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley, Ms. Freed. Chair will yield to the